Hello everybody, my name is Robert.
I'm Nikki.
And welcome to Date Night, our weekly review movie show here on YouTube, where each week one of us will pick a movie that the other may or may not have seen that we think might be good for a little date night for couples. This week, unbeknownst to my beautiful bride here, we will be watching Child's Play.
Nice.
Now, Nikki, what is your experience with Child's Play?
I have seen just about every movie for Chucky. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the horror films.
Can I be completely honest with you?
What?
Never seen the first one?
Really?
I have never seen the original Child's Play. Now, I have seen Bride of Chucky and stuff that came out around that time.
Yeah.
I think I've seen Child's Play 2 when I was really young, and if I've ever seen the original Child's Play, it was when I was really, really little.
The first one does a good job of setting it up. After a while, it does get a little cheesy after the third or fourth one.
Well, that's what I like. I like who doesn't like cheesy horror films. Am I right, folks? So, with that in mind, we are going to watch the movie, and we will be right back with our reviews. Cheers!
So I'm not really sure how to review a movie I've already seen before. Last time I watched this, I was a child. If that tells you anything about how I grew up. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all these horror films. So if you haven't seen the movie already, we watched the 1988 original Child's Play, which starts with Charles Lee Ray, the Southside Strangler, running from the homicide detective. He ends up in the toy store, shot and hurting, clinging to life. So he does a voodoo ritual to transfer his soul into the body of a good guy doll. So he can continue living and escape repercussions for his crimes. The doll later ends up in the hands of 6-year-old Andy, who his mom buys this doll off a peddler in the street, and then continues to terrorize the family. I love this movie. I have fond memories of this movie, if that makes sense, if you can have fond memories of a horror film. Watching it back years later, like, there's definitely plot holes in it, because the whole movie he's trying to find a way back into a human's body, and then it turns out he has to go back into the body of the first human he revealed himself to. The most thrilling part, I think, of the movie is towards the end, when you see this doll who's at this point burnt and on fire and running through this apartment, chasing after this 6-year-old boy. You know, just give me the boy and I'll let you live. You know, chasing after the mom, chasing after the cop, you know, with this knife in hand, very reminiscent of, what's that movie? The Hotel.
Psycho?
No.
Bates Motel?
No. It's very reminiscent of, what's the one where he's doing the axe through The Shining. It's very reminiscent of The Shining. Because there is a part in the movie where Chucky has this knife and is going through the door, you know, attacking Andy's mom. So the scene is set up very similar. So that has always stood out to me. I've always, if I remember anything about the movie, it's always that part. And they keep trying to shoot this doll in the heart, and that's how he eventually dies, because then he can't come back, he can't kill Andy. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. That's the whole synopsis.
Alright, so Child's Play from 1988. Came out the year I was born, so as of recording this, it is 31 years old. If that tells you anything about the time frame that we're talking about, it takes place in Chicago, and basically it starts with this, the South Side Strangler, Charles Lee Ray, who mostly they don't set up in the very beginning that he is the South Side Strangler. You hear that in a news report later. Being chased by a well-dressed hobo that turns out to be Detective Norris. Goes into a toy shop to get away after his ally in crime drives away with their getaway vehicle, gets shot, and he finds these good guy dolls, which I think it's hilarious that the big bad guy is in a good guy doll. And after he gets shot, he does this whole black magic thing with, after he has this entire tower of dolls fall on top of him. One, the cop heard the tower fall. They specifically cut back to Detective Norris hearing the tower of dolls fall on Charles Lee Ray. And then he just keeps meandering. He doesn't head toward the noise. It doesn't look like that big of a toy store to begin with. He's at the back of the store when he gets shot, and then the store grows. Lightning fucking strikes out of nowhere, blowing up the store like it was filled with TNT and gas. And the cop just kind of stands up, a huge explosion, stands up and just kind of stumbles over these toys that are scattered everywhere and finds the dead Charles Lee. Then it cuts to the fact that it's this little boy's birthday party named Andy. He's wearing good guy doll clothes. He's watching a good guy cartoon on TV, eating good guy cereal. Like, they're beating you over the head with the good guy imagery. One, the way that he wakes his mom up, perfect. Fucking commercial for birth control, throwing it out there. Almost burns down the house within the first couple minutes of him being on screen. Sugar everywhere, just a huge mess. And they do a really good job of showing just how cute this kid is. But. So, he wants this good guy doll. Mom says that, I didn't have enough time to plan for it. Cuts to her being at work and her best friend going, hey, there's a hobo out back that's selling it for cheap. And they go out, buy it from him. Turns out Mom can't work that night. And so the friend, Maggie, decides that she'll watch Andy. And Maggie's big transgression against this doll, who calls himself Chucky, is that she won't let him watch the 9 o'clock news. That's what sets up the fact that she has to die. Which leads to one of my favorite lines that I saw in this, where when the mom is talking to the boy after the cops are there and Maggie's dead after getting hit in the head and falling 6 stories out of a window, the little boy, sweet as can be, just goes, yeah, Chucky said that she's a bitch and deserved what she got. Like, out of fucking nowhere. And it's great because it's the first time that the boy cusses at all. I don't think the boy cusses that much throughout the entire thing anyway. I think that's the only part, now that I think about it. But It's just like out of nowhere. And just in the sweetest voice, which makes it great. But then the next day, mom takes the boy to school. Boy sneaks out with the Chucky doll and goes to hit to Charles Lee Ray's old ally, whose name I did not write, Eddie, and blows him up. And that's the first scene that they actually shot where it was very clear that it was the doll. Before then, even with like the black magic stuff that you see in the beginning, it could be that the boy is just kind of psycho. It could have been the boy doing it and just trying to blame it on the doll if they had shot it right. And that would have been a very interesting movie. This movie became a lot more comedic very quickly. So they make it clear that it is the doll that is killing everything, and the boy is in the interrogation room, and he just starts beating up the doll, like with this anger that you haven't seen out of the boy throughout any of the movie, and you go, huh, if they had shot it right, it could be that he is psycho. And all of the adults are like, yeah, the kid is nuts. The kid hit the woman with a toy hammer, and she fell out of the window. He killed her. And all of the evidence to them, not to us, the audience, that makes sense. And then the mom finds the batteries for the doll and goes, oh, he's been talking this entire time, and threatens to throw him in the fire, which is where you actually like see the doll, Chucky's personality as the Chucky we know in later films come out, where he's just cussing and, you fucking bitch, you filthy slut, and then like bites her arm and shit, and she doesn't throw him in the fire at that moment, and I still don't know why. I guess he has the strength of an adult, and he runs away, gets away. The cop still doesn't believe her. Detective Norris doesn't believe her, and that leads to a great chase scene in a car, not a chase scene, but a great scene in a car where Chucky is like trying to kill the cop, and he's like strangling him and gets burnt on the face, and he goes, oh yeah, I have a knife. I could have started with this the entire time, and starts stabbing through the back of the cop's car, missing him, and then stops that and starts stabbing up through the seat. So the cop is like this, and Chucky, like, it's not stabbing him at all, just kind of poking him in the butt. And that's when the cop realizes, oh, she wasn't crazy and neither was her kid. They were both telling the truth. This doll is alive. We have to do something about it. And that's when they find out that it's voodoo. And they find the guy that trained him. And you see him, Chucky, go to the guy that trained him, whose name I also didn't get, but trained him in something called Gree-Gree. So not voodoo, but Gree-Gree. But it's essentially voodoo because he has a voodoo doll and like starts breaking the guy's limbs, which is an actually kind of cool scene, if I'm being honest. But like when the mom and the detective find the man that trained Chucky on how to transfer his body into other beings or other forms so that he can essentially live forever, the guy says, you know, you have to take out his heart. He's slowly becoming human. You have to shoot him in the heart. It's the only way to stop him. But that's after that guy had already told Chucky that the only way for him to live and not be in that doll is to do the same ritual with the first person that he came out to as actually being alive, which happened to be Andy. And there's a couple of deaths that are really cool. One that I know Nikki kind of got grossed out is the doctor that's taking care of Andy at this point because they think he's insane, getting electrocuted to death, and it like cuts away and cuts back, and he's a little more burnt, a little more bloody, cuts away, cut back, and a little more burnt, a little more bloody. And that scene's kind of cool, but the final climactic scene in the apartment where they're fighting Chucky, and they burn him, they cut him, and then there's this scene where the boy is on the ground and Chucky's standing over him with a knife and just kind of lurches toward him. I don't know if they had an actor in a suit at that point or if it was some kind of puppetry, but it was shot really well. Like, that's the only part of the movie that I was like, hey, this is actually kind of intimidating. But it's ridiculous, and obviously they end up, like, after all of them get injured in some way or shape or form, they end up finally shooting him in the heart after blowing him the fuck apart. Like, the mom shoots his arm off, then shoots his head off, then shoots his leg off, and he still keeps coming. And Detective Norris's partner shows up, and Detective Norris goes, hey, they were right. Doll's alive. You can check. He's out in the hallway. Just don't touch him, for whatever reason. And the guy grabs the head, brings it back in, goes, this isn't alive. And then, like classic 80s horror, Chucky, the burnt up Chucky, because at this point he has been thrown in the fire, reaches his arm out and the head, sitting next to the detective, just starts screaming, choke him! Choke him! Choke him! And detective throws him off. Detective Norris shoots him in the heart after the mom remembers, hey, that was a thing I could have done earlier. And that's how the movie ends. Like, they keep leaving the boy alone multiple times in this final climactic scene, which, great parenting. Awesome. Because it's always the mom that goes, hey, I know that the doll's still out there and we burnt him and I think that he's dead, but go get the first aid kit by yourself. You got this, kid. Super dumb. And then, like, after they've proved that being burnt alive won't kill him, and they've shot him multiple times, they leave the kid alone again in the bedroom, and that's finally when the mom comes back and goes, wait, I'm supposed to be responsible here. Come on, let's go. We're going to the hospital with the detective. And that's where credits. And yeah, I guess that's my solo review. All right, our final review. We actually lost this footage when I went to edit the rest of the episode that you just saw. I realized that for whatever reason, the camera had never actually saved our final review. So, with that in mind, were there any parts of the movie, now that we're about a week later, that really stick out to you?
I have really fond feelings about this movie because, like I said, I grew up with it. So the movie as a whole, I always thought was really well done, especially for the time. When you have, it's like, I think it was one of the first of its kind to have, like, not really animatronic, but kind of that animatronic feel with the puppetry and the actor.
It definitely had good puppetry. I think that I said in my part of the review that I didn't know if they had an actor in it as well.
Yeah.
Because there's that one scene where he's, like, looming over the boy.
Yeah.
That is really, like, legitimately shot well and intimidating. And it's the first time in the movie that I'm like, oh, this could actually be a legit scary movie. Mm-hmm. But it's a doll. Like, it's comedy horror when they didn't intend for it to be comedy horror.
Like, I really want a Chucky doll. Like, I've always wanted a Chucky doll. No one will let me have one. But yeah, I love the movie.
I'm okay with us not having haunted dolls in the house.
Yeah. You just don't want to have fun in life.
It's the only thing from the 2016 Ghostbusters that I agree with when the girl opens up the room to all mannequins and goes, nope, that's a room full of nightmares, and leaves. I've never identified with another character as closely as I identified with her in that moment. Nah. I used to work in a theater where they had, like, just heads for wigs, like, in the basement.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
And I was security and had to walk through that shit at night.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
No, I'm good. I would have to say that the one scene that stuck with me, and once again, it points to how well the movie could have been if the boy was actually the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Is when Chucky is in the fireplace. They finally get Chucky in the fireplace. The mom is holding the fireplace closed, and the boy is sitting there with... is the boy's name Andy? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Like I said, it's
Andy.
been a week.
Andy.
Andy's sitting there with Strike Anywhere matches, and Chucky just stops and goes, "But I'm your friend till the end, remember?" And he just goes, "This is the end, friend." Strike throws in, catches him on fire. Like, that's a creepy moment from the kid who throughout the entire movie has kind of been a cute kid. And that's a legitimately creepy line.
Yeah. Yeah, especially from a 6-year-old. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So.
So, as far as a good date night movie.
I mean, I think you have to be weirdos like us.
High five.
But yeah, I would recommend it. I mean, especially if you're a weirdo. We need to watch the 2019 version too.
Yes. Not right away.
No, yeah, I haven't seen that.
But I would be interested to see how it plays as compared to the 88 version that we just watched.
Yeah.
I mean, one is a year old, the other one is 31 years old.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some major differences.
And as much as I love the one from 1988, like, I'd be surprised. Like, I really want to know what they did to it.
I think that they made him an AI.
Oh, don't tell me that.
I think. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to find out.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So yeah, and I agree with you that it could be a fun little date night movie. With it only being an hour and a half long, I don't think you have to be weirdos like us. It's fun. It's an hour and a half long. It's funny. It has its creepy moments. If it's just the two of you looking to kill an hour and a half together, great movie.
Yeah.
And with that, we will see you next week, and it is Nikki's turn to choose the movie. So we will be dressed like this, because we're about to shoot that now. See you next week.